Hello, my name is Rebecca Newman, and today I'm going to show you how to find reputable resources. So whenever your professors want you to complete an essay or a presentation or a poster, they want you to use the most reputable resources available to you. And today I'm going to show you how to find some of those. So one place you can find some of these items is through the library homepage. To get to the library homepage, click on Academics and then Library. You can also access the library homepage through the portal with the links on the left-hand side or at the bottom of any eLearn page. It doesn't matter where you are in eLearn. You can be in the gradebook or on the main page for your course, and there's a link to the library at the very, very bottom of the page. So once you get to the library homepage, the first thing I'm going to show you is UC Quest. I will note that if you're logging in from an off-campus location, it's going to stop and ask you for your username and password. If you do not know what your username and password is, please email librarian@ucwv.edu and request a password. So what is UC Quest, you might wonder? UC Quest houses most of our resources in one location. Electronic journals, physical journal records, physical books, electronic books, newspapers, magazines. There are some exceptions, some information or resources that are not available in UC Quest, and I'll show you some of those today. But for the most part, much of what you want, you can find in UC Quest. So now you want to type in your key terms. And once you have a list of results, if you look to the left, you'll see these little check boxes. These are called limiters. So if you ever hear a librarian using the word limiter or a professor, this is what they're referring to. They limit the scope of your search. And if you are looking for reputable resources, the first thing you can check is the scholarly or peer-reviewed journal button. So now I have a bunch of resources from peer-reviewed journals. That does not mean that everything you see is peer-reviewed. There is information, or there are articles in peer-reviewed journals that are not peer-reviewed themselves, like letters to the editor, for example. But for the most part, what you're looking at are peer-reviewed journals. Let's take a look at one of the journal articles so you know what they look like. You can either click on View this record from Science Direct, for example, Full Text Finder, or you can click on PDF. Sometimes they're HTML. So here is a peer-reviewed journal article. Notice that the title is at the top of the page. The authors are listed at the top of the page, as well as the institutions where they are currently or were employed at the time of the publication. There's an abstract, an introduction, methods or methodology. Notice that all of the graphs are neatly labeled. There aren't a lot of glossy photos. There might be some. We have a few pictures of the Komodo dragon here, but there aren't a ton of glossy photos like you would see in a magazine. There is a conclusion, discussion section, and then of course there's an extensive reference list at the end that tells you where they received their information or where they gathered their information. And you'll notice a lot of these references are also peer-reviewed and academic in nature. So if you click that scholarly peer-reviewed button and open the item and it sort of looks like this, then you can be pretty confident that you are looking at a peer-reviewed journal article. Some of your professors will ask you to use reputable resources, but some of them will be very specific and say, I only want peer-reviewed resources. What does peer-reviewed mean? Peer-reviewed means it's been looked at by a panel or a group of people who are experts in that particular field. For example, if I'm looking up a bunch of stuff on Komodo dragons, I would expect that they are credentialed in herpetology or zoology or something of that nature. So we're going to go back one step here and unclick this box. So what if your professors say they want academic resources or reputable resources, but they don't necessarily use the word peer-reviewed? Your other option is to check this academic journals box. There's overlap when you check the academic journals box versus the peer-reviewed box, but EBSCO differentiates because when you click the scholarly box, which is the first one we clicked, that all comes from a peer-reviewed journal, whereas the academic checkbox, the items that you look at may not be peer-reviewed, but they are academic in nature and written for an academic audience. So sometimes you get a larger results list than you would if you just clicked the scholarly box. Another option you have is to click ebooks. It's not the best rule in the world because there are presses that are peer-reviewed presses that do not have the word university in the name, and there are some university press books that are not peer-reviewed. But a lot of the time, if you're looking at a book and it is published by a university press, it is not necessarily peer-reviewed, though if you need just peer-reviewed items, you can ask either the librarian or your professor, and we can help you look into whether or not that specific book is peer-reviewed. But items published by university presses are reputable, academic in nature, generally make your professors happy, to make a long story short. All right, so I told you there are items that you may want to use that are not necessarily in UC Quest. You can go to database access. One of the big ones that I can think of is PubMed. Anybody researching a medically related question might want to use PubMed. Not everything in PubMed is peer-reviewed, but most of what you will see is peer-reviewed. Much of what you will see, almost everything you will see is academic, reputable, the sorts of resources your professors want you to use. Might even find something on the Komodo Dragon Bite here. Let's see what happens. Again, we have the title, the author's names, and their institution listed at the top, the abstract, introduction, results. Figures are all neatly labeled. We will have a conclusion, discussion, and an extensive reference list. So this does not look exactly like the peer-reviewed journal article that we saw in UC Quest, but it has all of the same properties. So that's what we're looking for. So we can be pretty confident this is a peer-reviewed journal article. So where else might we find reputable resources? You can find them outside of UC's library. I often send students to Google Scholar. It's scholar.google.com, or you can just Google the phrase Google Scholar. So again, not everything in Google Scholar is peer-reviewed. There are even some items that I would not necessarily consider 100% reputable. But for the most part, most of what you're looking at are scholarly items, academic items, peer-reviewed items. So what you want to do, again, click on the link and take a look at it. What does it look like? Looks like one of our peer-reviewed journals again. Authors' names are at the top, their credentials, the title of the item, the introduction, figures are all neatly labeled, references. Now you'll notice in order to access this item, I had to click on this link here. If there is no link here, it means it is not available in full text through Google Scholar. If you need something like this and you can't get it in full text, all you have to do is copy the title and paste it into an email, librarian@ucwv.edu, and we will either send you a copy or we will order it from another library and send you a copy free of charge to you. Where else might you find reputable information? A lot of the times students tend to cite magazines or blogs or newspapers that have specific data listed in them or facts listed in them. That data usually comes from some entity. Rather than citing the magazine article or the blog or the newspaper article, it is ideal to find that data yourself. So if it is a perhaps data on some sort of health question or health related topic, perhaps the Center for Disease Control actually has the original study that collected that data, so you can see the data yourself. Or maybe, so we have business students out there, maybe you need information on Kanawha County for one of your projects. You can go to the census, or go to American Fact Finder. Here's some information on Kanawha County, the size of Kanawha County. Notice this is from 2010. You have to understand the nature of how they collect census data to know if this is current enough. That is the most current they have, so 2010 for these particular items. You can look at educational attainment, business and industry, housing, like the number of people who rent versus the number of people who own a home. If you're looking for HIV statistics all over the world, you might use the World Health Organization. So your question might be, you'll notice when I needed information on Kanawha County, I knew exactly where to go. I not only knew the website, but I knew to scroll to the bottom and click that tiny American Fact Finder link. That is because I spend a lot of time doing this, as do the other librarians. We take classes on this, we take courses in graduate school. I take classes every semester on how to mine the census website. So if you have questions, I need this data and I have no idea where to find it, just email us. Again, it's librarian@ucwv.edu and tell us what sort of data you need. Sometimes the answer is that data does not exist or does not exist for free, and we can't get it for you. But a lot of times we can find whatever it is you need and we know where to find it. And if you know you're going to be doing a lot of research in that area, you can always come in, set up an appointment, call us over the phone, and we'll show you how to use some of those websites yourself so you can extract data whenever you need it. So once you've gathered your information, once you've gathered your resources from reputable websites and from UC Quest and database access, it's kind of up to you to take the next step. Just because something is in a reputable resource doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% accurate, because we know that technology changes and information changes. So it's up to you to determine, to look at the literature whenever you're doing a research project. You usually have a hypothesis in mind or an argument. You want to look at items that agree with you and items that disagree with you. You want to look at the items that disagree to make sure there are no flaws in your argument, and to learn about both sides of the question or the whatever the subject is. You want to look at the age of something. So for example, you notice I put in Komodo dragon. There was for a long time debate in the field as to whether or not Komodo dragons killed because they were venomous when they bit, or because they had a large amount of bacteria in their mouth, or because they simply caused a lot of blood loss. And what you would do in that case is you would gather all of your articles. You would look to see what the consensus is. So are 90% of these articles saying that it's bacteria and only 10% are saying they think that they're venomous? Is there a more recent article, a 2016 article, that has isolated the venom, so that you know they're definitely venomous? How old is the data you're looking at on the census website? It might be from 2010, it might be the newest you can get, but you have to kind of understand that those facts might have changed, or those numbers might have changed in 7 years. So once you have gathered reputable resources, it's up to you to take the next step. What is the consensus of what you're reading? What is the newest information I can find? What does this data mean in the context of whatever it is I'm studying? So that's all I have for you today. Again, if you have any questions on where to find reputable resources, please email librarian@ucwv.edu, and we will be happy to help you in any way we can.